seeing what I'm seeing? Tracie Spencer.
The Capitol was going through so many different changes. Like at one point, they got rid of the black music department.
I'm so confused, and I think I'm gonna cry.
And kept me and wanted me to represent black
Everything.
radio,
All of
pop
us.
radio.
You don't know what you mean. Oh.
Then you also have you meet a lot of interesting people who want to take advantage of you in the industry.
It doesn't matter 'cause you're still in my heart.
So I remember I'd go down there and be like, wow, the lights are out. Like, this is so weird. And I was like 17, 18 years old then.
Ready or not, here I come.
As a female, now they're like, oh, her dad's not around or her brother's not around. And
Ready or not, here I come.
yeah. And it got very uncomfortable, to be very honest. And
Love me the way that I love you.
And so I ended up actually recording like 2 different albums.
Let's get back to the people.
Both of those records got shelved.
My love, save it just for me.
I wasn't having any fun.
'Cause I'm saving my love for you.
And I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I just said, I'm having anxiety, I'm like having panic attacks, like, oh.
Boy, don't you even care. Tender kisses.
She had a top 3 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 before she even had a driver's license. She beat out grown women on the charts while still doing homework. She had the look, the voice, the talent, and then she just disappeared. No farewell tour, no scandalous exit, just gone. 1 minute Tracie Spencer was singing Tender Kisses on every radio station in America. The next, she was nowhere to be found. And no, this wasn't one of those I'm going to college cute clean exits. Something behind the scenes went left and nobody wanted to talk about it. Because here's the tea, her 3rd album was finished. It was done. Promo copies were printed and then shelved, erased, buried. Meanwhile, her label suddenly restructured, shut down their urban division, and started throwing all their energy into younger, newer girls like Brandy and Monica. Sounds like bad timing, right? Or was it something deeper? Because when you look at what happened next, how the industry chewed her up, ghosted her comeback, and quietly let her fade into obscurity, it doesn't look like a break. It looks like a shutdown, and we're going to talk about it. The label politics, the forgotten album, the comeback that never happened, and why one of the most gifted R&B singers of the 90s got left out of the story she helped write, because Tracie Spencer didn't just disappear. She got replaced, and what happened behind the scenes might just be one of the music industry's quietest betrayals. Let's get into it. Here's the thing, Tracie Spencer was never supposed to be controversial. She was marketed like a Disney princess dipped in 90s R&B. Sweet, respectful, ridiculously talented, and polished to perfection. She wasn't edgy. She wasn't grown. She was safe, in the best and worst ways. From the jump, she checked every box. Tracie won Star Search at just 11 years old, already out-singing people twice her age. Then she signed with Capitol Records at 12. By the time most kids were worrying about braces and science fairs, Tracie had a Billboard hit, a tour schedule, and an ASCAP Songwriting Award, becoming the youngest person to ever win it. And because of all that, fans just assumed she walked away by choice. Like, oh, she probably just wanted to finish school. Or, she was so young, maybe she needed a break. That was the public narrative. Tracie was this bright young star who just decided to hit pause for her own well-being. It was neat, it was digestible, and it made people feel good. But here's the part nobody talks about. That narrative came from the label, from interviews, from safe PR-approved answers, not from Tracie. Because when you really look at the timeline, something doesn't add up. She drops 2 albums by the age of 14. She's doing Family Matters guest appearances, modeling for Tommy Hilfiger and Chanel, recording tracks for movies. She's not slowing down, she's working. And yet, her 3rd album in 1994, shelved, vanished, never released. And that's when the story starts to change, because the industry didn't frame it like, we pulled her project. They spun it like she chose to disappear. That's the origin of the misconception. Tracie Spencer didn't leave the industry left her, and they did it quietly. But the next section is where it really gets shady, because her being replaced wasn't an accident. It was orchestrated. Let's stop pretending this was a graceful exit. This wasn't a thanks for everything, I'm going to college kind of goodbye. Tracie Spencer didn't ghost the industry ghosted her, and the receipts are messy. By 1994, Tracie had already recorded her third album. Not was going to record, she already did. The songs were done, promo cassettes had been pressed, Capitol Records had everything they needed to drop the project, and then they just didn't. No announcement, no press release, no explanation, just silence. Meanwhile, her label, Capitol, was undergoing a massive internal shakeup. They quietly shut down their urban division. And guess what? That just happened to affect Tracie's entire team and rollout. Convenient, right? So while she was sitting on a finished project, Capitol was busy making room for a new wave of R&B acts. Brandy, Monica, Aaliyah. Labels were shifting their attention to a younger, glossier version of what they thought sold better. And Tracie? Too mature, too soulful, too 90s. She was only 18, but the industry had already moved on without her. And let's be real, Tracie wasn't problematic. She didn't cause drama. She wasn't difficult to market. She was just quiet. And when you're quiet in this industry, they will erase you without blinking. They made it seem like she chose to take a break, but behind the scenes, her career had been put on ice without her consent. And this wasn't about talent, because no one was touching her vocally. This was about the machine deciding it was done with her. Period. They pivoted, they rebranded, and instead of standing by the young woman they helped raise into the spotlight, Capitol Records cut the mic and dimmed the lights. She didn't leave. She was left behind, on purpose. And now we've got to talk about that lost third album, and how it was buried before it ever had a chance. Here's where it really gets shady, because that mysterious third album, it existed. It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't a maybe. It was done. Finished. Promo cassettes were actually pressed and circulated. A release was planned. And then, for reasons no one has ever fully explained, Capitol Records killed it. Now think about that. Tracie Spencer, fresh off back-to-back R&B hits, with This House sitting pretty at number 3 on the Hot 100, had already proven herself. She wasn't some one-hit wonder getting shuffled out the door. She was a chart-topping artist with momentum, a fan base, and credibility. And they just shelved her? That's not a business move. That's a calculated pull the plug. The album was supposed to mark her transition from teenage prodigy to grown R&B queen. Word is, it showcased a more mature sound. New writers, deeper vocals. Basically the rebrand she needed to stay relevant in a changing market. But it never saw daylight. Why? Because the urban division at Capitol Records was collapsing at the exact same time. People were being laid off. Budgets were being frozen. Projects, especially ones without massive crossover hype, were getting axed. And Tracie? She was caught in the crossfire. No scandal, no drama. Just a teenage girl watching her dreams get filed away in a forgotten storage room in LA. The worst part. This was supposed to be her reinvention moment. She wasn't trying to ride off that tender kisses energy forever. She was ready to evolve. That third album could have changed everything. It could have reintroduced her, reestablished her, and kept her name alive at a time when R&B was getting flooded with fresh faces. Instead, it disappeared like it never existed. And so did she. It's not that Tracie Spencer didn't grow, they never let her. And just when you think it can't get more disappointing, wait till you hear how the industry pretended like she never even mattered. Let's be real, in the music industry, timing is everything. And for Tracie Spencer, her timing got sabotaged by the very machine that built her. After the third album was shelved, the silence from Capitol Records was deafening. No updates, no press spin, no attempt to salvage the project. And when fans started wondering what happened to their R&B sweetheart, all they got was a PR-friendly line about taking time off for school. Cute, polished, and completely misleading. Behind the scenes, the label was a mess. Capitol's urban division, aka the only part of the company pushing black artists, had been shut down. Not temporarily, not downsized, gone. Which meant anyone under that branch, especially artists like Tracie, who didn't have massive pop crossover power, were quietly iced out. The people who believed in her, fired, the budget for her project slashed, and suddenly there was no one left in the building fighting for her music. Even worse, the industry moved on without blinking. Because by then, they had already started grooming their new R&B princesses. Brandy was the fresh-faced teen with her own sitcom. Monica was the powerhouse with grown woman vocals at age 14. Labels were investing heavily in making those girls the future. And Tracie? She became yesterday's news before she even turned 20. There was also this weird energy around her image. She was too pretty, too mature, too polished to be the edgy girl, but too classy to be street. She didn't fit the new mold, and the industry doesn't do well with artists who don't fit neatly into a marketing box. And let's not forget, this was the era when the machine loved to build you up, then throw you away the second someone shinier walked in. Tracie didn't fall off. The support vanished. And when she finally got another shot, the landscape had changed and the game wasn't waiting for her. But let's talk about that comeback attempt. The 1999 album, The Famous Collaborators, and why, despite the talent, the machine still refused to fully back her. Now this is where it should have been her big redemption arc. A decade later, Tracie Spencer reappears with a new album, a new look, and serious creative firepower behind her. This wasn't some rushed mixtape. This was a fully produced project with top-tier names like Diane Warren and Soul Shock and Carlin, industry veterans responsible for chart-topping hits. The album was called Tracie, clean, confident, self-titled, like a reintroduction. And honestly, it should have worked. She came back with the single, It's All About You, Not About Me. And for a minute, it looked like she might pull it off. The song cracked the top 20 on the Billboard Hot 100. She was giving face, vocals, and poise in every promo appearance. The styling was sleek. The energy was grown. She was ready. But the industry? Still not ready for her. Because even with hitmakers behind her, Tracie wasn't getting that same machine push. No massive rollout. No primetime performances. No major interviews on the morning shows like the other girls. It was like the label barely remembered how to promote her, and barely wanted to. Meanwhile, younger artists were being handed the red carpet. Destiny's Child was dominating the charts. Aaliyah had become an icon. The R&B space was crowded, and the industry had already decided where to place its bets. And even when Tracie tried to diversify, modeling for Chanel, Tommy Hilfiger, walking the runway during fashion weeks in New York and LA, the music execs still didn't take her seriously. Like, she's out here securing high-fashion campaigns and getting magazine spreads, but somehow that wasn't marketable enough. She even dabbled in acting, guest starring on Family Matters, recording songs for movies like Good Burger and Down in the Delta. She wasn't just singing, she was building a full-on brand. But again, the industry didn't care, because by that point, they had already placed her in a box. Nostalgia act. They didn't want her as a leading lady. They wanted her as a throwback. Even when she showed up polished, professional, and ready to work, she was met with shrugs and "we'll circle back" energy. So yes, she tried, she reinvented, she showed growth, but every time she knocked, the industry gave her the same answer: not now. And when she finally retreated again, most people didn't even notice, which is wild when you realize what she started doing behind the scenes. Working with legends while staying completely out of the spotlight. Here's the cold truth. The industry didn't just abandon Tracie Spencer. It used her, squeezed everything out of her while she was young, fresh, and marketable, and then casually tossed her to the side when the next big thing walked through the door. But what they didn't expect? She kept working anyway, just not in the way they wanted. After the spotlight faded, Tracie didn't disappear entirely. She just stopped giving the industry what it wanted and started doing things her way. She pivoted behind the scenes, lending her voice as a background vocalist and songwriter for some of the biggest names in music. We're talking Dr. Director Evening, 50 Cent, even Kanye West. Yes, the same girl who was singing Tender Kisses at age 14 was now helping shape hits for some of hip-hop and R&B's most powerful artists. No drama. No headlines, no comeback campaign, just quiet consistency. But here's the part that stings. The industry never gave her credit. Her name was rarely mentioned. She wasn't invited to tribute specials or award show flashbacks. No lifetime achievement conversations. Not even a simple "where are they now" rollout that so many forgotten stars get. It was like Tracie Spencer never existed. And yet, her influence never left. You can hear her blueprint in every young R&B girl who came after her. The airy harmonies, the effortless vocal runs, the mix of innocence and maturity. Tracie did it first, but she didn't have the machine to protect her. And once the machine decided she wasn't profitable enough, it was over. Let's be clear, this wasn't about talent. If anything, Tracie was too talented, too versatile, too ahead of her time. But the industry didn't know what to do with a girl who didn't fit a narrative, who didn't self-destruct, who didn't sell scandal. So instead of celebrating her, they erased her. She went from Billboard darling to background ghost, working in studios, collecting quiet credits, and never chasing the fame she once had. Not because she couldn't, but because the industry made sure the spotlight was no longer hers to claim. And just when it seemed like she might step back into the frame, hinting at a fourth album, speaking at community events, poof, it never happened. Again. So what really happened to Tracie Spencer? And why has she stayed silent while the industry rebranded her entire sound through other artists? Let's unpack that mystery, because it's one of the most frustrating, unfinished chapters in R&B history. In 2004, Tracie Spencer did something she rarely did. She spoke up. During a keynote speech at the Martin Luther King Jr. banquet in her hometown of Waterloo, Iowa, she told the crowd she was heading back into the studio. A fourth album was supposedly in the works. And just like that, fans got hopeful. After years of near silence, we thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment we get the comeback she deserves. But nothing happened. No lead single, no label announcement, no sneak peeks. It was like the project got swallowed by the same quiet machine that buried her third album. Except this time, there wasn't even an excuse. No label folding, no market shift, no public drama. Just silence. And Tracie, she didn't chase the cameras. She didn't rant on social media. In fact, she never even made an Instagram. Instead, she slid right back into her private life. Quiet, intentional, and completely unreachable. No TV interviews, no unscripted reality show, no "where are they now" desperation tour. Just vibes, a wedding ring, and motherhood. And honestly, that's power. In an industry that thrives on constant exposure, Tracie chose peace over pressure. She refused to re-enter a system that had already failed her twice. But that doesn't mean the fourth album never existed. Rumors say she recorded songs. Industry folks whispered about new material. But with no label support and zero desire to play the game, it just never got off the ground. So what do we call this? Is it a graceful exit? A quiet rebellion? Or just another tragic case of a talent the industry couldn't figure out how to handle? Because here's the real kicker. The same industry that once erased her is now obsessed with 90s nostalgia, R&B throwbacks, viral TikToks about forgotten legends. And yet Tracie Spencer, the girl who set the tone for all that, is still missing from the conversation. Not because she failed, but because she refused to beg for what she already earned. So if you're wondering where she is now, she's living. Quietly, privately, on her own terms. No filters, no industry strings, no regrets. But don't get it twisted. Just because she walked away doesn't mean she lost. Tracie Spencer didn't fade because she lacked talent. She didn't disappear because she couldn't keep up. She vanished because the industry made a calculated decision. They let her go. They let go of the girl who broke records before she hit puberty. They let go of a voice that was every bit as rich, soulful, and radio-ready as the icons who followed her. They let go of a black girl who didn't come with controversy, didn't self-destruct, and didn't play the industry's circus game. And that, ironically, might have been the problem. She was too clean to be tabloid bait, too versatile to be boxed in, too grown for the teen pop market, too young to be labeled classic soul. She fell through the cracks of a system that only knows how to push extremes. If you're not messy, tragic, or shiny new, they don't know what to do with you. But here's what makes her story different. Tracie Spencer walked away with her dignity intact. No viral breakdowns, no public meltdowns, no messy tell-alls. She gave the world beautiful music, then chose herself. Today, her net worth is estimated at about $1 million. Modest considering her legacy, but when you think about the fact that she never sold her story, never did a comeback reality show, never used her name for clickbait, it actually makes sense. She lives quietly, as a wife, a mother, A woman who said no to the industry's nonsense and yes to peace. What will she be remembered for? For that buttery voice, for those iconic songs, for being the original soft-spoken powerhouse who paved the way without making noise about it. And maybe, just maybe, for being one of the rare stars who chose to let go of fame before it could chew her up any further. Because while the industry forgot her name, the fans never did. And honestly, that's the legacy that matters most. Tracie Spencer didn't disappear. They just didn't know how to honor her presence. And now, she doesn't owe anyone a thing.